Hello, everyone. Welcome. Thank you, everyone. Let us armor our intention with a very strong, good determination with which everybody is here, and with a very good intention. That benefit of this is not just for me or now or body or something like that, but rather for others and future and mind stream and overall greater benefit. So with this in mind, we will armor our intention in attending this very session. Our topic we discussed in the last few sessions is about how to secure your intention, whatever you do. When we say perfection, it doesn't have to be specifically perfection. It could be just attending this session, which requires all of the right intention and our generosity of your time. It's a very big, being able to give yourself the time and give the time for the benefit of others is generosity. Having the good discipline to attend repeatedly like this is the good discipline we're talking about. You know, they say the discipline is precious gem. Yeah, only if you have it and you keep it. And so, with this in mind, we're going to do the refuge and for immeasurable 3 times as a way to help the recitation of that to armor the very intention of devotion and refuge in the triple gem, and with commitment to practice the 4 immeasurables in all our life situations. Let's do that first. Thank you. Oyenda Buddha Dhamma Sangha Haitere Videla Dhamma Mahavaja Ajivendala Ajare Buddha Vajuvebe Enda Buddha Dhamma Sangha Ajare Vyada Eladama Bhavaja Ajivendala Ajare Buddha Vajuvebe Enda Buddha Dhamma Sangha Ajare Vyada Eladama Bhavaja Ajivendala Ajare Buddha Vajuvebe Mehobis happiness and the cause of happiness. May they be free from suffering and the cause of suffering. May they never burn from the happiness that no suffering. May they dwell equanimity, free from attachment and aversion to those near and far. May all beings happiness and the cause of happiness. May they be free from suffering and the cause of suffering. May they never part from the happiness that knows no suffering, may they dwell equanimity, free from attachment and aversion to the near and far. May all beings happiness and the cause of happiness, may they be free from suffering and the cause of suffering, may they never bar from the happiness that no suffering, may they dwell equanimity, free from attachment and aversion to the near and far. According to the intelligent and bred possession of it, where the Yajanda Dharma or great love and common vehicles. So welcome back, zooming back everyone. Thank you for everybody's commitment and thoughtfulness to give this time to each other and ourselves by being able to pay heed to the various important, pertinent teachings of the perfection of wisdom. And this is our part 2 and lesson 3. We already did the first part in the previous term, and this is we are doing in the second term. We are going through the teachings on the perfection of wisdom in sequence, how to practice the 6 perfections or 10 perfections by learning to, because that's the main instruction. Of the 10 chapters of this book, the first chapter is the main instruction. The main instruction is how to practice bodhicitta. And it talked about what bodhicitta is and how one should guard the bodhicitta as a good heart. How can we maintain a good, kind heart? Even with lots of meditation, lots of discipline people do, if they lack good heart, it just misses the point. So Mahayana's very quintessence is how to recognize a good heart, how to subjectively arouse a good heart in ourselves. And with that, how could we maintain that in everything we do? So that everything we do, therefore, correspond to the central precepts of the Bodhisattva's vow, Bodhisattva's practice. So it is going to talk about how all those 22 analogies to help us to remember and not forget the bodhicitta, by using the examples of the earth, and the gold, and like a waxing moon. These three things are kind of universal. There's always earth in every part of the world. Everybody's on the earth, and they always have some understanding and role of gold as a precious metal in their life. How precious it is. They always talk gold price in Australia. Every day they say, "What's the gold price?" Some people may not have gold, but they always know the gold price because they can keep talking about gold price all the time. So the price of bodhicitta is always increasing, by the way. Its value is going up. Value of altruism is always going up. and you cannot find gold unless there's earth, by the way. So the earth is the determination. Gold is the right attitude, right intention, and the waxing moon. By the way, tonight is a new moon, so it's a good analogy. Very, very pertinent analogies tonight. And tomorrow starts the Sagadawa, the very sacred month, start tomorrow with the new moon tonight. So we should make a little promises how to better our bodhicitta by looking at the first new moon and how to wax it. Yeah. So let's do this teaching. I'm sure you are able to do, but make this quite a subjective meditation as I'm talking about this, so that we could be spontaneously, concurrently realizing these things and acknowledging these things, not just some hearing information, but we could be actually almost like instigating some kind of reckonings and realizations can occur. This is what I meant, that you should armor those intentions while listening and do this very session that we are doing as the practice of the perfections. And tonight's topic is about the third perfection of patience, which we start discussing good half of it last week, the importance of armoring the intention, and then doing the application of the patience, like sitting here now listening. You have to be very, very patient. So you have to make sure that I'm talking or you're not hearing it. So if I just spend a whole hour like that, it will be a good teaching, but but of course I'm not that kind. But it will be useful. I'm sure you have enough situation in life, things like that, you know. They don't do exactly what you expect to do. They do the exact opposite. So that time you got to practice, you got to armor your intention, and you got to therefore try to engage your bodhicitta. Application bodhicitta should be like a fire. You should employ the bodhicitta unfailingly, and knowing that lack of patience is suffering, and the true origin of suffering is the impatience, and the best way to overcome that is to practice patience. Noble truth of path is the patience, and we talked about the three types of patience last week. Patience of voluntarily accepting the sufferings. Usually we don't take voluntarily accept suffering. We don't have any room for suffering. We are straight away reject suffering. We straight away arming and pulling our socks and rolling our sleeves, saying, "Why am this like this?" We quickly rebelling the sufferings. We are not in a mood to practice patience whatsoever, let alone voluntarily accepting. Sometimes you have to involuntarily accept some things, but so you're voluntarily willing to take up the hardship that is there. So that's a very hard one, hard kind of challenge, to voluntarily accept the difficulties, accept suffering. Why? Because the suffering, if you don't voluntarily accept suffering, then the suffering will continue. Suffering will continue and will escalate. So the truth of suffering will escalate, and it will become bad to worse. So being able to voluntarily accept suffering is how to make suffering impermanent, how to make suffering the cause of your compassion, how to make the suffering to exhaust your own karma, how to make your practicing patient with the suffering to reduce a little bit of stress with others as well. So you have multitude of rationale and reason why you have to be voluntarily accept. Why there's a lot of volunteer firefighters? Because they know, they believe in that. It's such an amazing job to do when they do know how much humanity it is, So why are there lots of volunteer firefighters, There's so many, so many. Because they believe how much it will relieve the suffering and pain and fear and insecurity of others, and how much great friendships they can generate, and so on. So we need to, willing to accept the sufferings voluntarily. Why? If you do that, you will firstly exhaust the sufferings, karma of the cause of suffering that you have. Otherwise, true origin of suffering, and suffering will remain same, and it will get deeper. And so voluntary accept suffering is not a weakness. Rather, it's a ingenuity. It's a bodhicitta, because you armor your intention for the reason. Why you armor your intention? So that you can practice, so that you do not tarnish, like an ordinary piece of aluminium will tarnish quickly in the water or whatever. Your goal, your motivation to practice tolerance is like a gold. It shouldn't be allowed to be rusted or tarnished like ordinary metal. So your bodhicitta motivation should, even I was talking to someone back in India who's amazing suffering. You hear the suffering, you can understand why they're not coping. Their mother died 2 years ago, and now their brother, who got only married 6 months ago, died. So the sister-in-law who was living together with the other brother, who is her husband, they just couldn't happen. They can't take it anymore. They always talk about their sufferings. I said, you still got a roof over your head. You still got your husband, and no matter how difficult the sister-in-law is, sister-in-law is putting pressure, saying, "This is my house. This is my hard-earned money, and you don't deserve to live here at all." And this and that, and look, so you should be thankful that I didn't charge any rent, and you're not helping me enough. Look, my brother died. My mother died, because after we got you in our home, then this all catastrophe happened, and they're all blaming her. And I said, look, this all sounds like she's bullying, but I said, the sister, actually, it's true. It's her house. Actually, true. It's she and her husband built a house, and actually, it's true that their mother died. It's true that her younger brother died, and now that she is that wife of the elder brother. And now she's being blamed. She's saying, they're not really blaming. They're just showing the stress. They're just showing their helplessness. They're just venting out their hopelessness. They're just suffering too much. So you should see, I'm the only one other than these people. So if she doesn't know, she doesn't have anyone me, she can vent it out. Then what am I for? What am I sister-in-law for? I said, you should think like that. She said, oh, yes, there is nobody. Yes, there is nobody else. Then she can vent it out. Two key family members died, and so then the one who is the head of the family showing all the stress, and then she's just getting at her. So I said, looks like very, very she's being unfair to you. But I said, she should voluntarily accept. This is the role of me being a sister-in-law. I'm living in their home, and they're letting me live here. I'm the wife to her brother. So of course they feel more at loss, because they lost their mother and his brother, and where she has still her husband, she got two children and so on. I say, look, this is the really excellent opportunity to practice patience. This is called voluntary acceptance. You don't even have to accept it. It's all landed on your back and landed on your lap. I said, this our sister-in-law doesn't know she's being hard on you. I said, she doesn't know she's being hard. She just doesn't know how to cope with it. She's just too stressed. So think like that. She's too stressed. Maybe I should give her a hug. I'm sorry, you lost your mother, you lost your brother, and and she might even think, Tibetans are very superstitious. Maybe because of this terrible daughter-in-law come home, then all these things come. And maybe I say, you did have some role. maybe all things happened because you came in the home. 2 babies born, 2 other died. Wow, that's a big shift, It's all because you came. You got 2 babies and now 2 other members. It's amazing consequences. I said, you're completely related to their misery and as well as their joy. If they're joyful, you should accept, when the brother got married 6 months ago, they were so happy, I said, you share your joy, they share their celebration. Also, you share their misery, When she's hopeless and she feels very stressed and she just is just expressing her sorrow and she doesn't come out very nice to you. But she's just more worse than she's speaking to herself. So you should think like that. That's called voluntary acceptance of suffering, And then, because people are impatient. Impatience is true suffering. You have more suffering from impatience than a difficult sister-in-law. At least you can disappear without the sister-in-law. Sister-in-law is out of sight, out of mind. That's no problem. But you will still be stuck with impatience wherever you go. so you will suffer more from that than from a sister-in-law. I said, I was talking like this today. I said, look, this evening I'm going to give teaching on this. So I said, this is a very good topic for me to practice. And I said, your example is very good. I said, you should voluntarily accept this suffering, and because you are part of the family, and you have 2 beautiful children, 2 half brother, and yet they don't sort of appreciate the grandchildren they have, or nieces, and 2 nephews they have, but they have lost a mother and a brother, so they're really suffering. So you should share their burden and empathize them, and then she will understand you. Otherwise, they think you don't care because you have 2 children and that's enough for you, type of thing. And she was trying to move out of the house. She can't stand that mother, sister-in-law. Yes. It's a very easy reaction to do. I said, very easy decision, that one, to get out, move out, or whatever. Then you wouldn't realize the consequences are far more painful. Just stay with it, be kind to her, understand her, empathize her, voluntarily accept the sufferings, that you do it not for yourself, you do it because the suffering sister-in-law and all the others. So you should try to do that. Then it's voluntary acceptance suffering. And then, of course, then also, see, this is the second patience is not minding these things. Of course, let her say whatever she says. Of course, at least you can listen, you can take it, as long as she has someone like me to vent her out and it helps her, so be it. I'm useful. There must be a reason for me to be here. Think like that. think that you don't mind what she's saying, You really rather mind her, she having no one to say this to. Then she might bang her head on the wall. She has nobody to vent her feelings to, and she might may harm herself. So you should think it's good for you, good for your strength and your growth, and because you're karmically connected through your husband. I said, look, you like your husband, don't you? So but remember, your husband is her brother, and she's not. Her husband works somewhere in another city, he's not there, So they end up with these 2 women in the house with the 2 little children, and lost the mother and the sister-in-law. So who else she can vent it out except you? I say you should therefore not only practice voluntarily, but not mind these things, because if you don't retaliate, the sister will slowly feel you're very patient, you understand, you are there to give her support, do the things what you need to do for her, and then she feels supported. Very good. You don't mind, but do the other things that are very important things to do. Don't worry what she's saying. Recite mantras or something. Oh, she's reciting mantra for me. That's a really good one. So try to use these as to offset your pressure. And therefore, don't mind the suffering. Don't mind the temporary sufferings. If you can tolerate it now, it will actually appease the spirit who have deceased, who have died and left the body, and they will be happy. At least there's no quarreling sister-in-law there. If you don't quarrel and you don't retaliate, and you just be nice and compassionate to her, it will greatly help you. So like that, we're talking about how to practice, and the better still if one can practice the third type of patience. Third type of patience is meditating on the ultimate nature of reality of the suffering, or the things you are finding difficult to tolerate too. Your tolerance is only tolerance if you tolerate something like this. You don't have a ready-made tolerance that is perfect from perfect without tolerating anything. There's no ready-made tolerance. You can buy ready-made toilet paper, but there's no ready-made tolerance. Tolerance paper, I don't think you can buy them. You can't buy tolerance. You can receive teaching, you can read the text, you can hear many times, but still you have to be confronted. You need to be challenged. You need the exact opposite. Someone who is really attacking you, someone who is really being difficult to you, speak to your harsh words, blame you, and maybe even harm you a little bit physically. That's okay. We have this body for no reason. How many times we have this body lacerated, just having a run or playing up there. We got lacerated, injured, broke the ankle. How many times we were tolerant for nothing? Let this time be tolerant with your stressed sister-in-law. Very good. Even if not that she wasn't saying she was physically violent. By the way, she was crying. Most of the time, she was crying. Poor lady, and then she was just crying and weeping, sobbing, and then venting out all her sadness and blame to her. So that shows how hopeless, how terrible she must be going through. She needs someone to understand that and not make it worse. So therefore, a person who practices tolerance is never able to tolerate by himself, unless they come to contact with someone who is doing things or saying things that are difficult to your ego. So that is the most appropriate. This is the most poignant moment to practice tolerance. This is all the teachings and listening that we did for. We have a Tibetan saying. Means, oh, now there's really a force. Now let the dog out. This is the nomadic saying, Usually you don't let the dog loose. They've got a lot of mastiff dogs in Tibet. If there's really danger in the house, some attacking, then you let the dog loose so the dog will attack or chase it away. This is the exact object to which you should now practice patience to. And why? Because otherwise your patience is not truly existing. Your patience itself does not truly exist. It's untested water. You can't shoot without a target. So you can't say this is very beautiful bullet, this is very beautiful bullet, but beautiful bullet just to look at it. Beautiful bullet only if you have target to shoot at it. Like that, your teaching of patience is amazing. Only amazing if you can apply it to the damn object. Then it's this really good teaching. It worked. I applied the thing. But if somebody is very nice always sort of spoiling you and giving you gifts and praising you and do all the hard works by themselves and always spoil you, you never get to practice patience, You don't learn Dharma on the comfortable seat, You actually get to develop those practice in their very adversarial situations. In the very adverse. That's why Shakyamuni Buddha exposed his young body to the nature, in the cold, in the wind, in the dry, in the wet, in the complete open air, not just in a nice afternoon, 24 hours, another 24 hours. How many 24 hours? 365, that's 1 year. He did that for 6 years. That's the perfection patient. He actually put the patient with the nature, patient with the weather, patient with the dust and a storm, the rain, the sun, the mosquitoes. You just name it, and hunger, and so on. You all practice patience. Patience only is patient. Otherwise, you could be quite articulate in explaining the meaning of patience. Like I'm trying to do. I wouldn't be impressed with that. I'm not impressed with myself being able to explain patience. That's not real patience. Real patience is when you really get confronted with your own weaknesses, with your problems, with somebody else, with people or with situation. And that time, then you practice tolerance. Then you don't say to attack them because they attack you. Then don't accuse them because they accuse you. Then don't disparage them because they disparage you. And then see whatever they're doing, seeing that this is an excellent opportunity for me to overcome my deficiency of patience. This is excellent opportunity. So that's called meditating on the ultimate nature or reality of the patient. Your practice of patience is totally dependent on the opposite, the harm. If you don't have harm, it will not arm you to practice patience. Yeah. So when you have perfection patience, you turn the harm into your arm. Instead of breaking your arm, you get a fourth arm. That's why you become four-armed Chenrezig. Why you have another 4 arms? That's people who ridicule you, people who put you down. It gives you another arm to practice tolerance, to practice compassion, to practice humility. That is not just because you say, I'm pious, I have the teaching, I should practice, he's so bad, but I have this. Not like that, not that kind of attitude. See him or her as benefactor of your patience, benefactor of your patience, and your own practice of patience is a very small part of the jigsaw puzzle. The main thing is their willingness to come that far and to create the negative karma to you. They're really doing a lot of hard lifting, poor thing. So you might as well make their hard lifting meaningful. Meaningful. Give them also another arm. Come on, how about that? I'm sure they talk about whether you're armed or not. Buddhists are very well armed, I tell you that. Buddhists are very well armed. If you haven't got loving kindness, if you haven't got compassion, if you haven't got joyfulness, equanimity, you are not armed, your house maybe have security, whatever, that you're still very, very unarmed. You're completely exposed. Yeah, you quickly will be exposed to collapse. Why? Because you do not meditate on the nature of reality of patience, which is dependent to the harm causer. So for the bodhisattva, they say in that Lamde teaching, for the deluded person, there is impure perception. For the deluded person, they think someone who's harming him, they think it's his fault, and it's all his aggression, all his bullying, and so on. The deluded people think like that, For the yogi or practitioner on the path thinks, it looks like that, but actually it looks like that, but they're actually helping me to grow. So you transform them as a harmer, as a cause of your growth. So you change your attitude towards them, and you see your own enmity is what you need to contain, not blame or retaliate at them at all. So that's the yogis have this transformative perception. Yogis have the experiential perception. They experienced this before, deluded perception before, and they don't want to go there anymore. It's just such a waste of time. And so I don't want to go there anymore. Thank goodness. What's the best alternative? The next one. So then you have a little bit of restitution. Very, very delicious, that one. Delicious one. Oh, you acquire a new taste. Oh, so this is, instead of going tit for tat, retaliatory thing, which is complete waste of time, I've gone that way and become so mutually destructive and unbeneficial. I'm not going to go there. Oh, I still see it's their fault when it's my own fault. My deficiency of kindness is making them look very aggressive and very violent. My lack of deficiency of compassion and tolerance makes them look like that. But if I have a little bit more compassion, I would be able to see them as benefactor of my practice. I'm not quite able to see that just yet, but I've got a bit of more work to do. I know exactly where I am. I'm not falling into the square number one. I'm not falling into the square one where I spend a lot of time. I'm at least out of that. I'm now at least in this new square, So I'm not comfortable here, but I know that this is far better than where I used to be. And when you do that, see, this is called, for the yogis, called the transformative experience. For the enlightened ones, they have pure perception. The bodhisattvas see the harm causers as benefactors. They say, they're doing all this hard lifting, doing the negative karma. They're already suffering before they said this to me or did this to me. Their suffering is just far more, inestimably much greater than I'm starting to feel in my skin. So I should take on this in order to exhaust their karma and make my own karma to be exhausted. So they're actually cause of real benefactor of my fitness to practice patience. Otherwise you say, how was your day? He said, there was a monk called Lang Tangpa in Lang Tangpa. Lang Tangpa was a Kadamba monk, he's always disappointed every day. He's not practicing the Dharma very well. He's always very, very, very gloomy faced. He's always gloomy faced because he's always have a lot of hard working to do because he's so suppressed by the ego all the time. He doesn't get to uproot the ego at all. The ego is still pressing him, so he's really, really depressed, So he doesn't have a really good day, He always is mauled by his ego, So, but when one can discover this and then practice that the harm causer is just as important as the teaching. Teaching is important, but only if you practice it. But teaching on patience is very good, but only if someone makes you to practice. So the people who are difficult to you actually are making you to practice. So therefore they are the real cause of your. It is through the Lord sentient beings that I have great chance to practice patience. So you elevate the role of sentient being as a Lord sentient being. If I give up on one sentient being, I've given up too many sentient beings. So I must practice patience. With this understanding, when you practice patience, and then you are able to, employ the three types of patience. And then the practicing patience itself is the noble truth of the path, noble truth of the path. So then it goes on, that's just recapping last week's one. In Buddhist teaching, traditional teaching, usually they spend quite a lot of time revising the previous topic so that people do have a remember and so on, So we are not I'm doing not just as much as traditional revising. Traditional method of revising. They say, once again, so that you don't forget, let me go over the last session, and then they go over this. Then at the end, and then 15 minutes for today's new topic, only 15 minutes they talk new topic. So they do that sort of thing, I think you guys are very, very diligent and very good comprehension. So I don't need to do that. But if I do spend a bit of time doing that, it's good for you. It is called the practice of patience on the patient. Practice of the patient on the subject of practice of patience, and hardly moving on the next topic. It just goes on again, repeating again the same thing as we didn't understand anything at all. And usually it's quite true, we thought we knew, but we just forget it very quickly. When it comes to practicing, we are not ready yet. Why? Because we haven't really, good in the beginning means listening. Good in the middle means you have contemplated, you have really thought about it, you have made it as your thought. And you have really digested in your thought, then you're quite seasonally ready to practice. Often people find when somebody's really hard, they straight away give up. They straight away use arms. They straight away will go to authority. They straight away go to retaliate. They straight away want to put them into trouble and try to harm them. The very thing that one didn't approve what they're doing to oneself, they will do twice than to the other person. Have you seen that? People do that? They wouldn't hesitate, They say they scream at you, and you scream them the rest of the half an hour. And because they don't realize, they haven't got the good comprehension. Good comprehension means, I'm about to do that myself. I'm disapproving them doing that to me, but it's quite okay for me to do. It's ridiculous. See, I didn't armor the intention. No, how could you apply like a fire when you haven't got the armored intention? So with this in mind, one needs to practice the patience with good understanding. And last week we talked about the example of the enemy or some who are difficulty giving you, really confront you, and you should really use their own confrontation, their very attack, their very sort of harm, and use that very as the path. You say, I want to practice patience, but this is the path, So the problem is the path, There is no path that's separate to the problem, You don't leave the problem there and try to seek a path over there. Learning to deal with the problem itself is the path. So give the analogy, the river that you come. If you travel and you arrive at the river and there's no bridge, what do? You have to now find a way how to use the river itself as a cause for you to reach there. If you know how to swim, swim. If you not, bring a little dinghy boat. Don't go upstream or downstream and then spend all the time doing nothing. Use the very river. Problem. The river itself looks like a problem and you don't know what to do with it. But you know what to do with it? Look at the beautiful bridges we have built. Wow. Sydney Harbour Bridge. Beautiful, don't you think? All these harbors are not made to look beautiful, That's just that's the aesthetic of it. The main function is that all these 1 million people travel on it every day. Need to go from North Shore to South Shore. All of that is the main purpose. Why? They use the very harbor. They use the very harbor to make a beautiful harbor bridge. So the harbor didn't become a problem. It become the cause of the beautiful scene. And like that, next time you actually use the problem to overcome your own impatience and intolerance and anger and enmity, you will overcome that. So that's why one needs to use the very problem as the path, not seek a separate path, just knowing what to do with it. So don't complain problems. Very good. Truth of the path is called noble truth of the path. Noble truth of the path. You have the truth of the path if you have understood truth of the sorrow, and the truth of the origin of the sorrow. And not building a bridge over the water will become an ongoing problem. So you need to invest a little bit for that, and then each time you cross the river in style. Like that, you need to use the very problem as the way to negotiate with the problem, and instead of avoiding the river, try to go upstream or downstream and not crossing the river at all, and saying that he's wrong. Why should I practice? If he's doing this, why should I practice patience? I don't want to have my sacred patience with this kind of person, type of thing. As our patience is too sacred, and they are too inappropriate as an object. People say that. People say, I don't want to waste my patience with these people. As they will they will preserve their patience in a nice day at a nice object. When you're going to practice, you don't need to practice the patience on those nice days and nice places. The nice days, nice places, you don't do any growing. You get indulged in the niceties. You get indulged in the niceties. You don't do any growing. Most people grew from hardships and difficulties. That's the time when people push you down, people blame you, people accuse you, people blackmail you. That's the excellent opportunity to practice patience. So that's really, really Mahayana, Why it's called Mahayana? Great vehicle. Great vehicle. It doesn't break away. Great vehicle. It doesn't break down. It can carry many heavy load. That's why it's a great vehicle. Its objective is great. It's not just doing for yourself. Its objective is just as for the person as much as for yourself. Its objective is not just for the sake of today, but for the future, and for the enlightenment, for the benefit of all beings. That's why it's great. So when we practice patience, its question isn't he's wrong, I'm right, and therefore why should I suffer? That kind of thing. That kind of illogical reasoning makes people usually completely never ready to practice patience, So that's why patience is a zopatawu kotume, they say. Shantideva's word, this one. Zopatawu kotume. Zopa means patience. Tawu means like. Katume means penance doesn't exist. There's no penance that is like patience. Even you spend 6 years in retreat, still who knows what you've been doing in that cave, I can't help it, but I have to quote this Tibetan minister. She's the only woman minister. She's basically also His Holiness Dalai Lama's sister-in-law, so I can really quote her, even though some people may take it personally. But it's a really good one, that one. Her name is Kasu Rinchen Khandro, She's His Holiness Dalai Lama's younger brother's wife. She was really capable woman and educated, and she also became a Tibetan, only woman who became a minister. And she gave a talk last year, I think just before the pandemic, when they had the graduation ceremony of the nuns' 10-year study at Sakya College for the nuns. And then she was giving a talk, and she was really giving advice to the nuns who just recently graduated, Not many nuns do graduate with that kind of academic essays. And she was really saying really heartfelt advice to the young graduates. She said, it's very good that you all got these titles and you all got this amazing status, because now you're no longer like an ordinary sort of shy girl anymore. You're really conversant in the Buddhist philosophy. You can debate, you have degree, and you have recognition and so forth. She says, it's really, really good. But it's even better still if you went and did some meditation retreat, And then she said, but make sure that even if you spend 13 years in retreat, but don't come out with more arrogant than you went in. She said, I've seen someone who says she spent all these years in retreat, but she come out with the very sharp-tongued against all sorts of things. And she says, I'm not inspired by such examples. I want the Tibetan woman's quality to be she said, I don't want the Tibetan Tibetan woman's quality to be tarnished by this feministic kind of attitude that we are all equals and become very arrogant and things like that. You should still show the modest quality of Goddess Tara. And if you do 10-year study or many-year retreat, you should be humble and very gentle and very selfless. She said, I want that. I don't want you to copy. She said, I don't want you to copy those feminists. Women should be empowered with education. Sure, His Holiness Dalai Lama have helped that. This is good. But she said, look, I'm a lay woman, but I really feel I can't stand people with a lot of, spend years in retreat, but come out with more arrogance, more sharp-tongued than they went in. I said, this does not serve Buddhism by any gender, let alone recent graduate nuns. So she was giving a really stern lecture, and I was saying, "Wow, that was a practice of patience. Someone needs to practice patience, and I'm sure we need to practice patience because people in the West, particularly modern world, if they have some degree and they did something, and they become all very elated with the arrogance, with the sense of self-importance, how they are. But the more you practice, the more humble one should be." So she was saying that. I think there was a lot. She really, I felt that she really meant it. She really meant it. Of course, she's among the leaders of the Tibetan diaspora, and she nevertheless knows that the exposure to everything competitiveness, we are equal, this is dangerous. This is losing the very flavor of Buddhism, teaches humility and selflessness. If you did all of that but still show the humility and modesty and the graciousness, then it's a really good example. But if like that. So it's very, very important to pay heed to these things. Now, to practice patience, it says that to practice patience for the past is ineffective. So even though some things you didn't practice patience in the past, and you really think that now you just still begrudgingly practice patience. You don't talk about nearly as sharp-tongued as before, but you still show a lot of resentment and ill will there. There's a seething disapproval of what happened. So if you're still practicing patience toward that, you're right, still seething inside. It's ineffective, he says. It's ineffective. It's like closing the hole after the mouse has escaped. So that's in Tibet, being able to capture a mouse is a great achievement. They don't have real good mouse traps, And the practice of patience for the future is wrong. It is like seeking something where the object is lacking, So therefore, how should one go about practicing patience? One should practice patience in real time. And when something happens, you shouldn't find an excuse saying, I will do in the future, things like that. That is the real time. When one is harmed by someone or evil spirit, you should use that as an excellent real-time moment to practice patience with. So if you're caught in a bad weather or if you whatever difficulties, it is say you should practice understanding of all the patience you have, you should practice with that. Enemies should be tamed when they occur. Enemies should be tamed by when they occur, not by retaliation. Not by blaming because they blame you, not by hitting because they hit you, not by disparaging because they disparage you, not because they push you, you push them, but because they push you, because they said bad things to you, you should say, oh, I have been party to their suffering. I'm very sorry they have to go this far to me. I must have taken some role in making them like this. Even though I don't really see exactly what that is, it is obvious they are infuriated by me. So I have to practice patience with them. So it doesn't matter who's right or who's wrong, but who has to do the right thing? Who has to do to quell the problem? Real enemy is not them. you are not cooperating of it. So it's not them that is enemy. You are not cooperating to tame the problem is the enemy. Very good. This is, I mean, you can think like that. Some situation where you are yourself now, you're angry at something, and you think it's them or him or that or your job or what is that. It's, my lack of kindness and tolerance and forgiveness and not empathizing their situation is a real common enemy. This is hurting them more than it has hurt me now. You really think like that. Then you are present. You are truly present. See, enemies should be tamed when they occur, and friends should be taken care of when they are present. So when the enemy or someone who's harming you and is willing to raise that much voice, willing to be so aggressive and run from there to there or whatever they do. People do silly things, Oh, poor thing, he's doing all of that for what? This is just, I have a responsibility how to quell this. Otherwise, his trouble is already from there to there. You look at their kind of trouble, it seems so upsetting to you that they are going that far. Harm caused to you is a minimum, but trouble in their mind is enormous. Yeah, you put on a scale, harm they have caused you on this scale, harm they're experiencing as you speak now. Oh, definitely the harm they are going through is far more heavier and more serious than they have caused me. Yeah, do that. As soon as you do that, then now you're truly with them. You're not about me. You're truly about what's there like. They still are not willing to stop. They still wanted to raise the voice. If someone comes, they will also bark at them. It wouldn't matter. It doesn't matter who they are. Can you notice when somebody's angry, they don't mind who they are going to get at. Anybody they will get at. They just would bark at anybody because they're all wrong trees, remember? So they have just lost their mind. They have lost their mind. When you can think like this, that is practicing patience. In real time. When one is harmed by them, you should see how much more they are hurt, they are confused, they are traumatized, they are troubled and upset and troubled, deeply troubled. Think like that. Then you realize harm they have caused you has armed you and eyed you to see what they're going through. Very good. Don't draw a third eye over here, okay? Try to see with that kindness what they're going through. Try to see with empathy what they're going through, the deep core of their sorrow and what kind of vented feeling they have, how many stress they have from the home or work or whatever. Think like that and you're not wrong. It's called being in the same boat. And that is being present. You need to be patient when the harm causer is harming. That time you should be practicing patience. Why? When you practice patience, it hurts you, pride, ego, and all treatment hurts. It's going to work. You try not to have a needle even poked in and you want to get well, It's ridiculous, You don't want to get the disease, but you don't want to take even one vaccination. And that's ridiculous, I mean, poking a needle on your body seems pretty serious. But the purpose isn't to poke you. Purpose is to save you. You should remember that. They may be poking the needle to you, look like, but they don't have intention to harm you. They just don't know what to do. They're so distraught. It's not wrong for you to think they are distraught, they are troubled, they're so confused, they have lost their mind, and so on. And you can talk to yourself, he's lost his mind, he's lost his mind. Because you don't tell them you have lost your mind, because that wouldn't help. I make sure I don't lose my mind like that. I make sure I don't lose my mind like that. I make sure I don't lose my mind like that. It's really good you say that. It looks very awful, doesn't it? Looks very awful. And you're soon going to become one like that if you're not careful, At this very moment, at this very present moment, you're going to tell yourself, if you're not careful, you're going to be like that. Oh, really? Am I taking the wrong step? About to. Oh, thank you. So that's the mindfulness. That's the engaged tolerance, fire, burning the very fuels, and sever conception when they arise. Yeah, sever the wrong conception. Then when they arise, they say he's harming me. That's wrong. He's already have harmed himself. Can't you tell? He already doesn't look good in front of anybody. Everybody think, what the hell did he raise that voice for? Even though they raised to you, but all the other people, they all was, they all seeing that, all conception is wrong. But they don't realize how much trouble he is. So don't believe in your own conception. Sever your own conception. Sever conception when they arise. Don't believe your conception to be correct. Very good. When you have a conception, usually people unhesitatingly believe their conception. The conception usually is visual perception conception, or auditory perception conception. Like that. It's usually blurred up by many, many negative factors. They're not really reliable. Or most conceptions are discursive conceptions. Namdok in Tibetan, Namdok means Aspectarian conception. Aspectarian conception. Aspectarian conception is your conception based on the aspect of one that you see. You don't see many other aspects. You only see, if I draw like this, maybe I can do this. Illustration, it's called illustration. If illustration is I draw this camera there. Can you see? Yeah. Can you see M? Can you see M? Yeah. Can you see M?
Can I?
Can you see M? But if I do this, it's W. If this way, I'll see like a number 3. If I look at this, it's like E. So got four aspects, at least 4 aspects. If the M is looked from one direction, it looks like M. If it looks from the opposite, it looks like W. It looks from the right, it looks like a 3. It looks like left, it looks like E. Wow! That's called Aspectarian conception. All conceptions are only one aspect, only one. That's just a visual. That's just a visual. Very easy to illustrate. Easy to illustrate. I saw 3 Indian boys. I saw 3 Indian boys who are arguing on the middle of the road. One is saying this is 3. One is saying that's a 3M. One is saying this is W. They're hitting each other. Each of them are standing on their direction and never seeing where the other person is looking at. Do the same thing, So all conception are aspectarian conception. So you're only seeing a quarter aspect of it. If it had a 6th side, you're only seeing 1/6 of it. You're not seeing the above. You're not seeing the below. From the above, I don't know what it looks like. From the below, I have to ask the earth what it looks like. He says, nothing. Earth doesn't say, oh, you're drawing M on my back, are you? Earth, for the earth, is neither 3, neither W, neither M, nothing, So, all our conceptions are aspectarian conception. In Mahayana Buddhism, it's called Semtsam Nam Zumpa. Chitta Matrin, false aspectarian. False aspectarian. False means mistaken. Aspect means you are confused by the aspect from which you are looking. Perspective, yeah? Perspective. You're confused by perspective that you see is the only correct perspective when it is false perspective. False only in relation to the other 3. Yeah? How do you want to sever that? Usually we have lots of conceptions. We straight away, unhesitatingly think our conceptions are correct. Can I say my point of view? Can I say my point of view? Everybody's got a point of view. And if your point of view is not understood, you become very impatient. So like that. We are all addicted to our conceptions. So it says, Tokpa Chungdusu che, very succinct in Tibetan. Sever conception when they arise. When you practice patience. So this is not, last week we were talking about practicing patience with yourself, we were saying. Practicing patience with yourself. Here in this case, practicing patience with your own conception, which is often false Aspectarian conception. False Aspectarian conception. Your perspective is only one aspect of the phenomena. It's not the total aspect of the phenomena as it is from its own side. Sever conception when it arises. So this is subjectively practicing patience, and destroy afflictions when they arise. Yeah, you should destroy the afflictions when they arise, and don't think it's object. It's your affliction. First, to be able to destroy your affliction, you should see them as affliction, not as object. People usually lump the affliction with object, and they don't see any affliction. But when you're practicing patience, you will see the affliction as affliction, and because affliction, when you see the affliction as affliction, it's no more affliction, because the one who sees affliction already can dissolve the affliction. It's one who doesn't see the affliction as affliction, then get afflicted. Yeah. So then he quotes Patamba Sangye. Patamba Sangye wrote a thing called 100 Tingriwas. He says, if the antidote fails to arrive, like patience, when affliction arises, oh people of Tingri, he's singing to the Tingri people, the purpose of Dharma is lost. So it means when you have when your antidote is not arriving, where there's a problem, affliction, then your Dharma is lost. So your practice patience is not happening when you're meant to practice patience, when the problem of harm or ill will or agitation or trouble is happening. As soon as you see some trouble, then straight away look for the antidote. Straight away look for antidote. Like medicine. You always look for medicine. Medicine is only medicine. When you have a pain, you take the medicine. Otherwise, you don't take medicine because it looks beautiful or because nice color. Oh, I like that medicine. Can I have some more? You don't take the medicine because it looks a nice color or like that, You take the medicine because it hurts you. You have so much. So you practice Dharma. You don't do the mala thing because you wanted to count the mala. You realize this mind is so scattered, you want to bring it together and recite the mantra. See, then it's real medicine. You want to meditate so that you can calm your neurosis. You want to clarify your mind being so scattered. So for example, objective condition. Yeah, we're talking about here, objective condition. Even you have subjective condition of a good, tolerant mentality. I have heard lots of teachings on patience. I know why it's important. I really want to practice patience today, So you might be completely geared up, ready, you completely charge up, all the knives are sharpened, so to speak. You completely charge when you practice patience, but you still need objective condition of your patience. Objective condition of patience means you need the adversity. So what is adversity? Like practice of patience, objective condition for the practice of patience for the Buddha is his cousin Devadatta. When Devadatta caused him harm, when Devadatta throws stone to the Buddha, can you imagine? He daring to throw stone to the Buddha. And amazing. I mean, everybody would bow down to the Buddha. His cousin sees something else. This is cousin's kind of delusion. He's competitive. He says, I'm also a Shakya prince. Why am I not like that? He does this. You wouldn't believe what went on, what Devadatta went on to compete the Buddha, to harm him on many, many ways. So for the Buddha, the objective condition to prove his Buddha-ness, is not because he got enlightened, because even though he's enlightened, but still someone like Devadatta's constantly trying to get at Buddha on many occasions became the objective condition for the Buddha to not only teach patience, but actually practice patience. And Buddha actually told many stories. What many past life stories, they actually existed between him and Devadatta. That Devadatta is still like that. Likewise, anyone in our life, you have someone, you should always see that. These are objective conditioning. They are just basically benefactor of my patience. So you should be kind to them. And therefore, whatever harm Devadatta-like person in your life causes you, you should see them as an objective conditioner of your practice patience. If you have no Devadatta in your life, you wouldn't grow very much. You're too indulgent. You're too lucky. People don't grow in comfort. People don't grow in everything going physically, sensorily very well. You don't really practice physically much in Buddhism, Mahayana. You don't really practice physically or verbally. You really practice mentally most of the time. Your main practice is mentally practicing. It's the physical harm is no real harm. And some people are even physically very, very patient. You can see that. They run after a ball and they do all sorts of, they're really patient. You wouldn't believe how patient they are, You wouldn't believe, But in Buddhism, we don't call them patient. Those things are not patient. Physically willing to do all sorts of. But real patience is overcoming ill will. Overcoming ill will to the very people who does really, really unpleasant things to you or to your loved one or to someone you respect or like that. So, real patience is quelling one's own ill will and not Devadatta. Devadatta is just indicator of your opportunity to practice patience or lack thereof. But real patience is not whether Devadatta disappears or Devadatta changes behavior towards you. Oh, I've been practicing patience. Now he's so nice to me. Can you believe this is so good? Oh gosh, that's. You think that's the result of your patience? You want somebody to be so nice to you, isn't it? Oh gosh, that's not a patience. I'm sure you would love that, but that's not real patience, All these lovely people you have. You think Dhamma practice flourish with the lovely people? I don't think so. It looks very good outwardly. Even Buddhists might try to do that. They think Buddhists should be no conflict. I think Buddhists should have plenty of conflict. I mean, there's someone nobody's willing to be Devadatta. That's the problem. Oh, they're all seething. They're all hiding. As if they don't have the Devadatta-like behavior. So lack of kind of all the disharmony is very good sign. Good sign of good opportunity to practice patience. And all this, everything's harmonious, everything's, this shouldn't be like this. This shouldn't happen in Buddhist place. This shouldn't be, you're idolizing everything. And Buddhists also shouldn't have any neurosis and affliction and karma. And what kind of Buddhists? They're all hanging in the space, maybe they should disappear or something, No wonder there's so Buddhists in the world, because they all disappear in the sky. They're going to handle the troublesome world. No, even among Buddhists, you should tolerate those things. You should understand that's exactly the opportunity to practice patience. Don't try to expel somebody because they're like that. We need Devadatta. We need someone who is willing to do the heavy lifting. Of course, maybe someone has to go and volunteer doing that. To check everybody's test, to check everybody's practice, whether how much temperature they have or not. In the old days, some of the Buddhist teachers used to do that. They weren't just teaching; they were really doing the thing to just to pull the rug around your feet and see what you really like. They behave all sorts of ways, not because they are like that, but they just do it. They just do it. That's the only way to teach. Because they idolize, they perfection. They think everybody should be perfect, everybody should be immaculate. It's completely unknown in the world, yet they expect all those impossible things. So all those Mahasiddhas, not many of them, by the way, so you shouldn't worry about there being too many. Most people are afraid they might contract a Mahasiddha. There are not many around. There's hardly anyone known. Most of them, they are only when they're dead. Yeah, you wouldn't believe. People only realize, such and such was great Mahasiddha. They only know after they have passed away. And people are so intolerant. Wow. The teaching is like that. Teaching is showing how intolerant the practitioners are, how unaccepting the people are, because they're idolizing everything to be perfect. And they don't realize that objective conditioner like Devadatta is necessary. Devadatta is another bodhisattva. If you really think about that, Because there's no real Devadatta. We know that. There's no real Devadatta because nothing is real. Why should Devadatta has to be extraordinarily, exponentially real? Devadatta is also do not truly exist at all, But nevertheless, Devadatta-like figures often brings out the teachings, So objective condition. If you have objective condition like Devadatta, for the practice of patience, when they cause harm, you should see these are objective conditions I need. One can only be patient when someone like Devadatta harms, ridicules, blames, accuses, put you down. Not when he does not exist or cause any harm. You can't practice patience when somebody doesn't harm you, somebody doesn't exist harming, and you can't practice patience. That's why patience isn't a practice very regularly because most people don't. They are so proper, aren't they? They're so proper. Proper people never let you grow. Proper people don't let you grow. They're all too nice by the books, And everybody is so fragile. Nobody has been tumbled up by these difficulties. They've been so delicate, all breakables, all this fragile, so fragile. Everybody's so fragile. So fragile because they're not made to last, Practice patience. One practice patience when there arise sickness or other sufferings to oneself, not when they do not exist. So that's why patience is not a virtue that easily practiced by most, because most people don't want to bear difficulties. So, therefore, it says now, how do you go about relying upon spiritual friend? Remember, talking about the need to develop the practice of patience. You need to not only lay the foundation on the Four Noble Truths, but also you need to adhere to virtuous friend. The exalted virtuous friend, that's the Buddha one. The enlightened virtuous friend refers to the fully enlightened one, whose kindness to all sentient beings is great indeed. Buddha has given this very teaching. This teaching, although is written by in this particular word by Rongton, and then as well as put together by Nagarjuna and others, but actually are taught by the Buddha. All these teachings given by the Buddha is great indeed. But since one neither can see the Buddha in person nor listen to him directly, one should follow the lineage of his oral teachings. That's exactly what we're talking about. For this, one has to rely on a human virtuous friend, human spiritual friend, who has to strictly follow the thought and teachings given by Buddha. So a human spiritual friend who learns and study and try to adhere to the practice as best, you should first rely on such. So that's why we are all relying on the lineage. Yeah? Such a friend will explicitly show all the methods of the teachings that are not otherwise so apparent in the world. Yeah, so the Dharma teaching is not readily available. If you go to any big bookshop, there's hardly any Buddhist book there. Some don't have any Buddhist book. Some have small corner. There's a few books, but some of those fast paperback sellers, they're not real good books there. Very, very difficult to find Dharma books, let alone where Dharma is taught properly or practiced. So there's very difficult to find apparent Dharma. First, he carefully examines the qualities and conduct of the disciples. So this is talking about the human teacher. He should rebuke those with bad conduct. Come here, books. Now this is pushing a bit hard. He should rebuke. I think it won't be very popular in the West. I tell you that. He should rebuke those with bad conduct. Compliment those with the good discipline. Yeah, compliment those with good discipline. I think that will be okay. Telling them, oh, you're so diligent. Thank you. You're so diligent. And so you praise them, yeah? Reform and correct the pitiful ones. Reform and correct the pitiful ones. Yeah, all the pitiful ones have to be willing to be reformed, Willing to be reformed without a stick. Without a rebuke, without a stick, but little bribes. Maybe little bribes. Yeah. Reform and correct the pitiful ones. So, pitiful ones. Yeah, most these days, very, very few people want to even take the job, Take the job of being a teacher. You wouldn't believe how many people don't want to. In Tibet, we have a lot of little boys who have lots of dreams or whatever they could put on the throne, very high, special. And most of them, they realize, by the time they're age 19 and 20, then they realize what they expect. Or some of them say, no, this is not for me. Why did you put me this? I don't want to do this. Quite a lot of them are withdrawing. Understandably so. Because people have so much unrealistic expectation of how perfect they ought to be, But Buddha's here, it says, human teacher. They don't say them as enlightened. They're not enlightened. Otherwise, they wouldn't have snot and all these 9 orifices and all these problems. All these orifice problems. Really, you wouldn't believe all these orifice problems, People want to put things in here. People want to put in here. All these things, Because they're craving and desiring, Because their body is biology. They're made out of same biology, Same hormones, And their mind is not enlightened. The body is still made out of the same property, And people think perfect and idealize them to be perfect and have no karma, no emotions, no this, and that's why most people don't want to take that role. Let alone reforming and correcting other pitiful ones. They themselves can't reform themselves very well because they're still struggling on the path. Quite a lot of teachers say that I'm still struggling, and it's not a modest thing. It's true. It's true. It's fact. It's fact, because after a while they have to run to the toilet. They can't keep delivering teachings. That's what I shouldn't be drinking too much. Just wet to the lips. Michaela was going to bring another tea before she left. I said, that's okay. I'm just trying to wet my lips. I don't want to drink too much, because if I drink too much, I have an orifice problem. And different kind of orifice problem, Most of them are very leaky, You wouldn't believe. Yeah, they're oozing from here. In the morning, there's something is here, and often tissue box everywhere. No wonder why. Because we're so leaky, you know. They don't know how to contain and restrain because they are still bag of pus and blood. And all the lymphs and all the fluid that are produced by eating all these vegetables. You wouldn't believe how much we are vegetable. They're just coming out from here. Amazing. The body is so functional. The ear just dropping is very reliable. I have been collecting my ear drops, ear waxes. I collect my ear waxes and look at them. And then after a few weeks, I flush them. Really good lesson for you. Because usually we don't give a lot of time to the flushable things. We straight away flush. We are really no more than a composite of such kind of 36 impure factors all jumbled together. So who can correct who? You know? Admit them to follow the good path, Admit them to follow the good path. Encourage them to follow the good path. Do whatever to become necessary companion. Yeah, try to be a friend to... This is talking to teachers, If you want to be a spiritual friend, you to try to be a friend, a companion to somebody. Not just to on one level you are spiritual friend, another level you have no friendship whatsoever. You should do whatever to become necessary companion, meaning you should be a helper, you should be a friend. The virtuous friend is comparable to a good friend in the conventional world. There's some people who says, I have a good friend, And a good friend should be a spiritual friend, as well as others too. Your Dharma brother and sister is also a good friend, It doesn't mean that virtuous friend has to be necessarily with someone with a title, someone who has this title or something like that. That's a dangerous one, like Kasur, what I quoted the Tibetan minister. She was saying people with titles are dangerous one. They can become too attached with the titles. So get rid of the title and be a friend. Be a friend. A good friend is comparable to one's parents. Be a parent, someone who can share their stories, who can tell the stories, who can give advice, who can show the ways, who brought the children up into this world. So we should be a friend. One should be a parent because there's a lot of orphans. They have biological parent, but they still look like orphan. And they have friend, but they still don't seem like real friend. They're only friend to drink and watch movies, go to the soccer, that kind of friend, They don't have friend with whom they can really have a good conversation that raise and wake the slumber inside them. After checking if the children's conduct is proper or improper, parents subdue them either by smacking or by correcting those who lack good conduct. So the teacher, parent-like teacher, should skillfully, without having to smack. Of course, this is text written in 15th century, by the way, so you can understand. Even in 19th century, people were smacking. So Rongton's text is, we need to adapt it. We need to rewrite it. After examining the quality and conduct of the disciple, virtuous friend will have to use some ways to persuade and subjugate their unruliness if engaged in non-virtuous deeds. So, meaning that one needs to skillfully use ways to tell them, but not tell them as if they are so wrong and they will not be permitted again and this is the last chance, that kind of blackmailing. In this society is very intolerant, and they wouldn't give you a chance for to make any mistake. They just want you out. So intolerant, and that's why they're always unable to replace anybody, because they're so intolerant. They don't give another opportunity to the other. So the good spiritual friend should not, treat others with contempt as if they have failed. Should still encourage them. They have Buddha nature. They can change. you should do that. After examining he has to compliment. Yeah, we should compliment each other. Offer little praise to those who are good, and should carefully reform their behavior accordingly. So this is talking about how this is not talking about teacher, you know. And in many ways, everyone is teacher to each other. Because say if you're 10 days senior in the Dharma than somebody, and you know a little bit more than somebody, and you actually taught them few things, and we are all spiritual friends to each other. So we should all help those who are orphan, who don't have a guide, who doesn't have a parent, who doesn't have a friend, and stay behind them, go with them, walk with them. Go because they need you, not because you want to go. That is true giving. That is true giving. Just as parents sing praises of their children and say, "My child is reliable, modest, unpretentious, generous, who knows the difference between shame and embarrassment," spiritual friends should also praise and encourage to delight the friend by saying his faith is great, he's very diligent, he's respectful, and should make them progressively improve their good conduct. So we're talking about how gentle we should be towards each other. If one has heard the teachings on perfection wisdom, one need to employ them, one need to implement them, not in form of teaching, but in form of real lived examples of doing things, encouraging others. How he reforms the pitiful ones. So we were talking before. He should rebuke those with bad conduct, compliment those with the good conduct, reform and correct the pitiful ones. So he's explaining these in detail. He should rebuke those with bad conduct. He says, how does he reform the pitiful ones who has bad conduct? When the child is about to engage in some improper conduct, maybe they're able to say something, or maybe they're saying something, maybe doing something. Say one of your friends like that, which is dangerous to themselves and their future and to others and so on. The responsible parent grabs the child's hand and restrains them from doing that. Likewise, similarly, when the disciple or friend of yours goes off to the mistaken path and about to misbehave and say or do or things, the virtuous friend, spiritual friend, should also hold by the hand of your friend and talk to them how you can dissuade them from doing that. And like in this society, we think they should go ahead. I'll support you, and then they think you're brave or something like that. And then when actually they're destroying your life by making you think you're brave or something, the person who did that later on feels so bad. What did they do it for? They didn't feel brave at all. They just feel so stressed as a result of that. So we should try to tame people's behavior rather than boost their anger. They have some amazing thing to be achieved by doing that. The whole world would be perfect if they did that top kind of idealistic view. Our impatient society usually tend to do that. This doesn't mean we shouldn't correct the behavior, but we should be carefully and skillfully. How carefully we can improve others. Admit them to follow the good path. This is the fourth one. It says, how are disciples admitted onto the path? By holding by the hand, parent will try to influence the child so that he will enjoy gain, respect, and fame in the future. Likewise, we too should be taught to them, don't do this, do this instead. If you do this, it'll be a little hard now, but it will be really good for you in the future. Also, in the same way, the virtuous friend should influence the fellow disciples to engage in study, in contemplation, in discipline, and meditation, in order to train in all the qualities on the path. Now, the fifth one: do whatever to become necessary companion. Do whatever to become necessary companion. You have to do whatever, you see. So doing whatever to become reliable companion. If you have to stay behind a little bit, if you have to come out a little bit out of your way, even out of your own way, you have to do that. That's real doing whatever you have to do. Whatever, Most people are like that. When they really are in good, that they will do whatever. They do whatever to become reliable companion. Parent naturally corrects the bad behavior of the child, praises his good qualities, sets him on the good path, bestow material wealth, give them encouragement. In the same way, the orphan like sentient beings, the parent like virtuous friend, you should assist them to study, to contemplate, to meditate, and then blesses to clear away the obstacles and makes them to gain and grow and understand, realize knowledge, and provides assistance as a reliable companion. And also almost give things that you wouldn't usually give give to others. That's really good. Sometimes people are happy because someone gave them when they were really down, and as a result of that, they have found humanity, they found hope. And so those who are really low and down, you should not push them or blame them or give them a number or something. Do something by yourself that you wouldn't even dare to give to yourself or somebody. Just do that. That's a real teacher. Therefore, individual virtuous friend is very important to exemplify the teachings. So in this way, the skillful virtuous friend, one become very skillful. The enemies, evil spirits, sickness, and so are all virtuous friend. Now you have empowered your student or fellow practitioner that you have only shown them, but they will be doing that, and with their own sickness, with their own difficulties, they becomes a virtuous friend. Now the catastrophes, setbacks become virtuous friend. This is the patience, that teaching on patience. It's just not to rely on the enlightened one and human teacher, but you have completely empowered them to face their demons and make the demons become their skillful friend. If one practices patience with these, if you empower them to practice patience with, that's the very purpose of these teachings, so that we are empowered. Our tank is being filled up with these teachings, so that we actually have a full of tank, and then we practice these on our road on life. If one practice patience with these means sickness, evil spirits, enemies, hardships, and difficulty, all the negativities, your negative deeds will become exhausted by the practice of patience, and one will swiftly attain unsurpassable qualities and perfect enlightenment. The person who is supported by patience, person themselves now feel they don't need you. They don't need you. They don't need you to tell somebody to tell you what to do. They know exactly what to do. They find the raw material. Now simultaneously give rise to fruition of the goodness of what they learned. Now they can actually harvest. Now they can truly harvest their skillfulness. Previously, the skillfulness was the teacher or the Dharma of the Buddha. Now it has become them. Now it has become them to become harvester of their skillful dispensation. And as a result of this, even the highest qualities of Buddhahood, they say all the beautiful Buddha's body is all the result of practicing patience. There's a people with patience, born with good physics and with beautiful complexion and so on. People who have been very impatient and so on, they're born with exact opposite. Since there is no superior object to practice patience, then one's own hardships, then one's own enemy, then one's own sickness, then one's own difficulties, one has to rely upon these skillful virtuous friend. That is your own hardships. Your own hardships are the real teacher. The teacher can only teach you what to do with your hardships, but they can never make you to practice patience. Most of them wouldn't. Most of them wasn't give them just 1.5 hour teaching on the week, then disappear. they wouldn't make you to do they wouldn't make you to do any of that. So because most people have enough karma, enough baggage from the past life or recent months, recent years. So they said, now you have plenty of material anyway, so I don't need to tell you. And the student says, what? Don't you still get it? It's your own enemies. It's your own problems. It's your own sickness. It's your setbacks. These are the most skillful patient friend you should practice patience with. You don't need me. Now you should do it yourself. Now you do it yourself. Now do it yourself. Yeah? So the extraordinary cause to attain Buddhahood is patience. Even Shakyamuni Buddha, when he was practicing patience, his body was emaciated. You would see that his body was so like only bone and skin. There wasn't this immaculate body of 112 marks shining when he was practicing patience, you know. There's no way to meditate on patience if there are no enemy, no evil spirit, no sickness, no personal difficulties. You could never develop patience. So therefore, patience came into existence by relying upon these very adversities. These very adversities are the cause and conditions that will become very important for you to practice patience. Hence, meditation and patience in relation to enemy and evil spirit should be seen as the skillful friend of the most reliable one. So this is amazing teaching, isn't it? So you were looking for this amazing teacher. It says, you're the most skillful and reliable teacher of practicing patience is your own problems, your own karma, your own sickness, your own home or your own life or job or whatever. These are the very object of your patience. The body of enemies and evil spirits are, body of enemies or, your illness. These are the indicator or the signboard, If somebody is really hard on you, they are the signboard that I am the object to practice patience with. It's written patience on the but you can't read it, I'm the benefactor of your patience. It doesn't look like I'm benefactor of patience, a troublemaker or something like that. They go, he's the troublemaker. They go, oh, you don't have enough troublemaker. That's the problem why your growth is so slow. So it helps to indicate the difference between the attainment of enlightenment by meditating on them as objects of patience or go to lower realms by generating hatred. So it's almost like how you see the object is the kind of junction which will determine whether you will win or lose. If you develop hatred to the objects of adversities, you will lose. If you develop, this is the very object and subject with which I should practice my Dharma most. All my practice Dharma, wherever they are, please come. This is it. And if you do that, then you will find your meditation is really one-pointedly happening on that very situation. This sign simply reveals the choice between these two is yours. So this question is whether you want to choose this way or that way. So if one wants to use it as the subject and object of practice patience, and not choosing another better object of patience, or another day to practice. Oh, on Sunday I'll practice patience. Next month I'll practice patience. This is like then talking about future. So that's to do with practicing patience in relation to physical things. Now I'm going to just read through the next two paragraphs. The practicing patience with others, likewise, who speak harsh words to you, harsh words and really hurtful verbal abuse, is deeper teaching than following instructions. The teaching like this is very profound, looks like. But those who actually speak harsh words are the real instructions. They're the real instructions. Usually this kind of instruction doesn't come very easily. First one has to first listen to the instruction. Secondly, one has to contemplate on the meaning of the instruction. Finally, one has to meditate on them. You like in the good in the beginning, good in the middle, and best at the end when you at the end. So first you have to hear the person maybe speaking harsh words to you. You can see whether this is, when you hear, you can see the sorrow, anguish, confusion, greed, and hopelessness in their voice. If you hear that, that is teaching the sorrow, the truth of sorrow, truth of suffering, and truth of origin. So if you can hear their bad words as something they have no control, they are saying, but yet they are saying the very thing they don't know they're saying that are only going to exacerbate their suffering. And whether it will help us or not is a totally different question. But now when you listen, it says, when you first listen to the instruction, secondly, meditate on the contemplate the meaning, what that means to you, what they're trying to get to you, Are you listening to the words? What they're saying? Finally, one has to meditate on them, what to make of it. Most people don't do this. Straight away they hear, they don't like, they react back. They will straight away react even worse words than the other person said. They didn't hear nothing. So they didn't hear anything. They heard nothing. They just deaf ear. They didn't hear anything. They didn't hear the anguish. They didn't hear the sorrow. They didn't hear the confusion. They didn't hear the trauma. They didn't hear all the unsatisfactoriness in their life situation. If you did, you heard it. And then you contemplate. Now, what is my role? Now you hear. Now you don't mind what they said. Why? Because you're patient to hear it nicely. Hear it back. Now you see that, wow. Now you're contemplating. What can you do to de-escalate that? If at all. Or what you may do, it will escalate. You have to contemplate. So when you contemplate, of course you want to de-escalate the poor suffering they're going through by not retaliating, by accepting. By accepting what they said, because you come here and maybe go out another ear. Don't keep between the two ears long. and then you contemplate, understood, and now you're going to meditate. Meditate means you be with that. Meditate on the sorrow. Immense sorrow of the person who couldn't contain or restrain their neurosis or emotions, and they just went on and on and on. There was no room for you to add anything. They just need to be given this total stage. There you have to give the stage to them, but you didn't want to push them away and upstage them. See, this is the patience. So this is practicing patience with. It requires a great deal of right effort. Even after making a lot of effort, for some, it will not be known whether it will become instructions or not. For most people, it doesn't become instruction. Still, there was no Dharma teaching there. No instruction, whatever. It was abuse. It was harsh words. It was verbal abuse. It was whatever. You say all those things. And one might even say the worst words than other people use without realizing one is saying that. See? There's a danger of not heeding it as instruction. This is amazing. This is what Rongton is making us to very, very heedful. With the bad language, with the bad language is spoken by others, it will suffice to meditate on patience. By voluntary acceptance of sorrow, without having to make great effort to make it worse. Yeah. So now you can see the sorrow in the other is so obvious. Their mouth is full diarrhea, having verbal diarrhea. It's everywhere. But first was just on the chin. Now it's all their beautiful shirt. The cover everywhere. It's all the verbal diarrhea is everywhere. Just throwing out everything. Just you can see, pitiful, and they don't know that whole thing. You got to think like it might be your mother, it might be your father, it might be your son or whatever, and usually they don't know they're having such a messy verbal diarrhea, And for you, it's not the instruction, what they're going through. If you don't see that, you still haven't got. The bad language is spoken by others. It will suffice you to meditate on compassion and patience and voluntary acceptance without having to make effort to make it worse. You just have to tolerate it so that this is exhausted. At least they stop vomiting. More vomiting. And listen more deeply, contemplate more deeply the alternative ways how you can respond, if not at all this way or that, and do meditation. And you can see the prevalence of suffering when people are not able to restrain their bad thoughts. They become bad words. They don't even know bad words as bad words. And they don't know what harm they are causing to themselves. Thankfully, furthermore, to meditate on patience when seeing someone is... furthermore, to meditate on patience when seeing enemies and evil spirits is more meritorious than having the vision of the deities. Some people want to see deities in the meditation. Well, this is a real deity now. This is a real deity, you know. All these wrathful deities. Why do you think the wrathful deities, all this tongues curling and fangs, bad fangs, and all this having intestines everywhere and all these things? Why are they talking about that? The deities are, we deliberately give money to buy those and hang on the wall. I mean, this is talking deity, you know. Talking deity, giving you direct verbal instruction, personal instruction to you, and you are not hearing that instruction at all. When you hear this instruction and see the deity, so all the verbal abuse is instructions, their awful appearance is the deity, that you usually do not get a vision except your miserable tanka. This is amazing. Rongton says, Lui damji lale laksa. Yeah. Wow. He says, even by having vision of the deities may merely thin out your obscurations. It will thin out your obscuration if you see they are the deities. Practicing patience with enemies and evil spirits will exhaust all the misdeeds accumulated in the past and completes a vast and great amount of merit. In this way, with patience, one will be liberated from the dualities of good and bad objects, rejection and acceptance, attachment and aversion. As there comes from this a development of a great path in one's mental continuum, one should remember that enemy's body surpasses the forms of the deities. The bad language spoken by others surpasses the pith instructions. You can say, today I had a pith instruction. It was kind of good. You're like, I had a lot of pith instructions. See, Dharma is this kind of reconstitution of mind that has this kind of ability to be literate. Subsequently, by seeing all the bad language of others are just words, the words are just sounds, sounds are just echo, the echo lack any intrinsic nature whatsoever to be upset by. Through this, one can obtain extraordinary inner realization. Yeah, so there's a lot to meditation. The practice of patience is when you are not seeking the enlightened spiritual friend, virtuous human friend, but skillful life friend. Your own difficulties manifesting in form of a boss or colleagues or stranger or on the street or whatever that it is. It doesn't mean that you put yourself harm's way. You're not. Now you're completely armored, you know. Remember we go armored? You wouldn't be harmed, you know. Even if they break a finger, so what? You have another 9 fingers. You know, things like that. A lot of gold fingers broken for no reason, no good reason. But you didn't lose your patience with that. That's the whole thing. You didn't lose your bodhicitta because you armored it so well that never mind. Shantideva says, how many times have I died uselessly? If I have to die in the face of someone doing this harm, at least it will be useful death, when all my past death has been pretty much waste. If I give in to this hatred of mine, it will take me to the hell fire that from which I will never be set free again. So I'm completely clear about to which I will give in to which I will not give in to. So this is very clear. So with that kind of certitude, one needs to develop the attitude and then have that kind of unbreakable, like the ocean. Like here the analogy of the patient is like ocean. Ocean so deep, no matter how much waves and turbulence on the surface, deep down, you're completely unperturbed. So vast, so ocean-like. So one needs to, therefore, use the life's actual adverse difficulties, demons or karmas or setbacks, as the very thing that will exhaust, that become the exhauster of the past karma which we have inherited from not practicing patience. If you find yourself doing practicing patience like that, that is the noble truth of the path. If you find peace after that, which you really will, that's the truth of the cessation. That means snubbing of the ill will. Some people practice patience, but afterwards they feel still resentful. Oh, I did, but I really resented that, they call it. See? Still difficult to experience truth of cessation. Because one lacks the wisdom. Because one lacks the wisdom to meditate on the emptiness of patience, yeah? One thinks my patience truly existing type of thing. So that's why one need to improve the performance. So we couldn't quite. I think I will finish these next two paragraphs if you bear with me, because it's patience chapter being patience. So wouldn't mind for another 10 minutes. My voice is also a little bit cracking, but I said you better perform. It says, further, this can be related to 8 stages. So this talking about practice of patience can be related with 8 stages. These 8 stages is a little bit difficult because it's talking about different stages of enlightenment. But I will read the translation. The 8 stages are knowledge of the object of patience, knowledge of the object of patience, and the patient, and the knowledge of all the methods of patience is omniscience. So that's the highest patience is the interrelationship between the objects and knowledge and actual methods of ability to implement the methods of practice patience is omniscient. The omniscient is the eighth level. Then the familiarization of the complete knowledge of the mental continuum is knowledge of the path. So that means that's you being on the path requires you to practice patience. So that's the second top one. When we count from the bottom up, that's the 7th one. We're listing from the top down. The knowledge of the lack of inherent existence of self of the meditator is the knowledge of the ground. That's the number one. That's the shishe, lamshe, and so it's the ground knowledge, path knowledge, and result knowledge. Yeah, result knowledge. Okay, good. Practicing patience with all aspects of the objects of patience. Good. Practicing patience with all aspects of objects of patience is the preparation of the complete enlightenment. So that's the part of preparation level of practicing patience. Wondrous conception is the peak. Wondrous conception is peak. Peak is the path of preparation. Has the 4 levels. The fourth level is called peak. So then you realize, this practice of patience is wondrous. Wow, this is the best of all conceptions. This is not a false Aspectarian one. This is correct conception, and then conceiving that as the best conception, as a wondrous conception. Yeah. How wondrous is it, it's like Atisha. Atisha is a Sanskrit word that means has nothing. It's peerless. It's peerless conception. This is peerless conception. Peerless Dharma is practicing patience. This is the peak. That's the fifth. List of the fifth. Training them in gradual stages is a gradual succession. So because you have to develop stage by stage. Yeah, there's these eight knowledges, and reaching the ultimate of patience is momentary preparation. So momentary preparation is the kind of the last moment before you become perfection of perfection patience. The result of the fruition is the true body Dharmakaya. So these are the eight. These are Rongton is comparing the practicing patience itself to do with the level of enlightenment, all the way from ground to the omniscience. Yeah. Then next one is this practice of patience now is also can correspond to the 5 paths, which is partially covered in the eight stages, knowledges we talked about. But this correspond to 5 paths. Being patient with enemies and evil spirits will accumulate merit. Yeah, will accumulate merit, and therefore is the path of accumulation. So when you're practicing patience, it is a path of accumulation. You know, you don't have to do 100,000 prostration on the spot, but you might have to practice patience on the spot, and that is the accumulation of merit. Okay, and as practice of patience joins to the path, it corresponds to the path of preparation, because what does the path of accumulation do? Path of accumulation joins you to see the path of seeing. That's called path of preparation. So that's the second path. Seeing that there is no superior objects of patience than enemy and evil spirits is the path of seeing. Yeah, this is really path of seeing, you know. So being able to really see, even teachers is surpassed. Teaching is surpasses. When you practice patience with the enemy and sickness and difficulty, that is the seeing. That is real called seer. You know, seer, they call S-E-E-R, seer. You know, you have become real seer. You have really, cataract has been really removed. You have cataract operation. You really see that. You have the seer, path of seeing. Vipassana. So Vipassana is not just watching the sensation at the tip of the nose, okay? You know? Vipassana is seeing the person who harms you, who harms you as the most important object to see its emptiness. Emptiness of the harm causer, and seeing its usefulness to make you to overcome your ill will and so on is the path of seeing. That's the third path. Meditating on patience. Now this is talking about meditating on patience like that, without any distraction, at all times is the path of meditation. You know, without even sitting, you could be on the path of meditation. Yeah, you could be doing your own normal things, the things. Whether maybe you're gonna have a nice jog, but it's a rain poured and you were miles away from home, and maybe it's only the rain you have to be patient with, but just still not agitated by the rain, not thinking I'm wet, and practicing patience without any distraction, and just still do what you do is the path of meditation. It's the real path of meditation. That's the fourth path. The success is the path of perfection of normal learning. Success is no more ill will. No more saying, oh, that was really hard. I did it, but it was so, I wouldn't do it again. People say that, That means you blew it away. You still have resentment. You still have resentment. The person who had the success don't even say he did it. It's so sweet. He doesn't have to say this. So sweet. He doesn't say, I realize enlightenment. He says, I've got a long way to go. Still humble, still modest. I'm just a beginner. I'm very deluded. Sorry, I'm very deluded. It's very good. I always say that. I'm deluded. I'm very deluded. Always say that. Stay very humble, but never think that you have reached somewhere else. Or you can read your past life, or you can read your mind. Never do such things. Oh, this is very dangerous, spiritual materialism. If this is realized, then enlightened forms of exalted virtuous friends will appear uninterruptedly. That's when you have the real vision of the Buddhas. That's where you real vision of the gurus and the deities. Then you have what we call boundless perception of pure perception. Boundless pure perceptions. You will hear teachings from enlightened one that not that you need anymore. I don't know what more teaching you need to hear because you don't have ear anymore. You have realized no ear, no nose. You don't know who will be hearing who. And what? Human virtuous friend will also appear uninterruptedly. And then you will see a pure perception. Your human teachers are really perceived by you as being truly grateful objects of veneration. That is not only second to the Buddha for your development, you will have such a pure and wholesome perception. Consequently, self-realizing virtuous friend will gain uninterrupted realization in your mental continuum. Then you have this true spiritual self-realization spiritual friend. And this completes the how to practice, rely upon the virtuous friend. So practice of patience itself becomes your virtuous friend. And then that completely sort of, that summarizes, synthesizes everything in that level. So with this, we will conclude here. I don't think we can conclude on such things. Jeanette has made a point here. I had a boss who would regularly scream and froth, and his face turned red. But when I didn't retaliate and showed patience, he would call his wife, and she would take over the yelling. I was so fortunate to have two benefactors. Yes, you're very lucky. Hopefully everybody's got more than two benefactors in their lives. More than... Huh? There's a classroom of children, classroom of 30 teenagers towards 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Yeah, that would be very interesting. You have no shortage of benefactors. So we are all on the path. Very good. We are all set on the path because we got excellent opportunities. Thank you very much, everyone. So we will no doubt bear this in mind and make ourselves completely armored in this way, and leave no opportunity miss, and have this kind of apt state of mind. That's real mindfulness. Practicing patience is real mindfulness. I don't know about munching a mouthful of food 19 times before you swallow. That's some people think that's a practice of mindfulness. They say you shouldn't swallow a mouthful of food unless you munch 19 times. That's mindfulness munching, I suppose. Sometimes you should eat some unpalatable food in your mouth and then just munch 19 times and then still relish as best as you can. That would be maybe a mindfulness, munching 19 times patience. There are lots of people who teach you many kinds of mindfulness, but perfection wisdom teaches the perfection of patience is most important, what they call most wondrous conception, peerless master plan, how to live is practice patience. Give peace a chance, they call it. Yeah. I'm sure there will be not a single dull day when you have this companion. Okay, thank you. We will do the dedication marriage. Thank you, everybody. Om Bade Mere Me Ho Ga Da Deva Benze Ge Om Neze Me Hale Bere Ro Be From the Ocean of Bada De Sene De Herenda Mahayana Buddhist whatever merit I have me hope because as to hold the Mahayana Buddhist courage manjus in you as ama Dabadra de la follow him all the zambo I shall de go de mer de excellent body chida deba na yadans where has been bometing freely without generation. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.